Dracula came about because the university wanted to do a project in October, and what a better project for the Halloween season than Dracula.
I was very excited when my agent called me and asked me if I would consider playing the character. Beyond the stereotype, I was drawn to it as an actor.
I thought Lorenzo was terrific because he played Dracula in a way that fit with the approach that we were taking. We weren't doing a musical version, we weren't doing a cheesy comic version of Dracula.
It was an interesting way to approach the character, as rather than the self-confident Dracula that we all seem to know. I'm trying to find an element of vulnerability and compassion in the character so that the audience can feel something different about him.
Remember me, won't you?
Oh, yes.
He kills people and drinks their blood, but he also loves and loses love. Like he's almost a victim himself.
John Wooten, the director, is really trying to make it as real and organic as possible. The more real it is, the scarier it will be.
Your mother is indisposed.
In that scene, Lucy's been visited by Dracula, but he sort of erases her memory, like she doesn't actually have any conscious knowledge of it, so all she knows is that she woke up in the middle of the night and something strange happened.
What do you want of me?
I think it's the sex. That's why people love Dracula. I think that there's something truly sexy about this story. I think especially the fact that it was written in sort of the late 19th century and that is still the mystery of it and the sort of forbidden aspect of Dracula's relationships with the women. And, it's also very much about secrets, this show, and what happens when you hold in secrets. And I think that that's an important message that still sort of applies today and to relationships and to the world.
This is a completely different translation. So the structure of the play, and indeed some of the characters, were not to be found in that Broadway original. That was an adaptation of Hamilton Dean and John Balderston. Bela Lugosi did the original adaptation in 1929, I believe, and that established it as a hit. And our revival with Frank Langella as the Count was the same version. This Stephen Dietz version is completely different.
In this particular adaptation, there's more opportunities for us to see the vulnerability of the Count. And also the real love he has for humanity. I mean, he's dying of loneliness in Transylvania. And that was an interesting difference.
I'll begin with your blood.
Blood?
Dr. Seward comes to check in on her, and there's a lot to that relationship. He's in love with her, she's in love with him, but she's not allowed to marry him, so he's coming to take her blood and to check on her and to try to figure out what it is that is making her have these strange and scary and somewhat exciting dreams.
Yes.
You are my true friend.
The thing with Dracula is it's got so many scenes and so many locales, and I didn't want to do a production where you do a scene, you go to blackout, you change over to another scene. It was very important to me that all the scenes blended into each other, and really worked in great detail with the set designer to ensure that the play could flow from a scenic standpoint.
So originally what he had was this was going to be a piece of 1x, right? And this is what the molding, this is like plan view of the molding pool. Right. So we just do this guy like here the whole way around, and then we have to find a way to cut that little square out of the foam too and do him all the way around because it's all got to go.
So this has to be coded.
Yeah.
All has to be coded.
Yeah.
With Dracula, you really need music and sound effects to reinforce the story. We had wolf howls and church bells and all kinds of sounds that really gave the sense of the world that we were in. I love that laugh.
Yeah.
Keep that laugh and then build up another laugh on that because I'm going to have a blackout there. And we took the voiceover sessions and the recordings, and Jane was able to mix those, add music to those, add laughter, add howling, add crying. So the voiceovers were developed to a point that the sound almost took on its own character in the play. Like Dracula, it became almost this superhuman kind of support to the production. Yeah, this is where you really get in his head, because it's
It's a little more, I see this as being a tad more subtle. I am the hunt in the eyes of the beasts. I am the hunt in the eyes of the beasts.
I think my favorite scene is when he expresses his undying love for Mina. He's killed Renfield, and he's standing there, you know, in front of Mina in all of her beauty, and he just says that, you know, you are their treasure, you know, you make all men weak, you know, and now you're mine. And it's that whole scene where he just explains, you know, his passion for her, and in the same way, he's telling the audience how lonely he's been all these hundreds of years.
It was so much fun to be able to take on a work like Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Stephen Dietz adaptation, because it is such a gritty and realistic approach to the material. So as a director, you couldn't ask for a better project to work on.
It's like somebody stepped on my tail.
Lorenzo came to us because the casting director knew a director that had worked with Lorenzo and the King and I, who just not only talked about his talents, but it talked about Lorenzo, how giving and open he is as a person. And he was completely laid back, completely willing to try everything. Maybe just a touch more subtle.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is he saying it? I want to do it exactly like he would say it. And everyone, a life! Life.
Almost, yeah, breathe it out.
Yeah, okay. And everyone, a life.
Kean's cool, man. Yeah, it's got a bunch of great programs. I've been walking around and checking it out.
One of our main missions is to really work with the academic units, and education is a big part of what we do. We do a co-production with the theater department where we involve students in a production where they play some of the roles, they work as interns, they work behind the scenes, so they get hands-on experience working in a real professional theater and understand what an equity contract is. So when they graduate, they're ready to compete on the highest level.
I was very lucky to be able to work with professional actors and get to see everything that goes on. So as a student, it's an ideal situation.